Good afternoon. I guess we are now afternoon to everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Lower Merion School District's November 14th, 2024 Facilities and Purchasing Meeting. This meeting is being recorded. We will do questions by first having the board ask for questions related to the agenda items. And then we will, if you raise a hand from the community members who are joining us, we will call on you if you have a question to ask. Please help us by keeping it somewhat brief, kind of within the 3 minutes so that we may move through the agenda and let everyone have a chance to speak. And let's move on to the list of bills, please.
Hey, I just wanted to, Amy Buckman is going to be a co-host because when I'm sharing my screen, it's harder for me to see if anybody's waiting in the wait room. So Amy, if you don't mind helping me out there, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you, Denise. Jason or Shayna, do you have any questions on the list of bills?
I'm looking through. I don't see anything that's jumping out at me. How about you, Jason?
I was just curious. The one question was that I know that at the beginning of the year we had a lot of the tuition for other schools for it looks like for children that went to a different school that we were paying for. I saw a couple on the list of bills for this month. I was just curious as to why some would show up on this month if the school year starts in September. Is it only in September, or should we be seeing them up until November? Does it continue on throughout the whole school year? Is this just children that we've decided that need to have additional services at a different location? I was just curious.
A lot of it could be the parents have to provide information to the district to get reimbursed. So sometimes the parents, when they get their paperwork together, sometimes it's delayed. Sometimes there may be agreements that are approved after the school year, retro back to the beginning of the school year also.
Got it.
It's really like a timing issue.
Are there situations where the parent will pay after there's an agreement, the parent will pay for it and then we reimburse the parent, or?
Yes.
Oh, it is. Okay. So it will come from two ways, either that or the other option is that we would pay directly to that
Correct.
School.
That's correct.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
I thought of one question that's related.
Okay, Janet, go ahead.
This isn't a question that I need answered right now, but just something I'd love to hear from the admin going forward, maybe at a CCOB meeting or something else. I'm looking at spending on athletic uniforms for one of them, and I recalled that we had had a conversation and I hadn't had a follow-up on it of I'd love to hear about which sports teams or get financial support from the district and how much and like how that's determined. So like I'm making this up, but if football gets their uniforms paid for and lacrosse doesn't, how that's determined, and what efforts we could do to have parity on that sort of thing. So that was just a flag I wanted to put in and hope to have follow-up on that.
Okay.
Ms. Kalish, I can briefly respond just to let you know that there's a cycle that usually our ADs operate on, and there's an equitable measure of making sure when the teams come through that cycle, they spread it out so we're not spending it the same year. And typically it's on that cycle that's equitable with all teams. So, the lacrosse uniforms would be updated in usually the same time frame that a football uniform would be updated upon.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's something that we make sure that so I'm thinking of I know that the district is less financially involved in the solvency of, say, the crew team than the football team. And I'm just this is, like I said, not something we need to hash out here, but I'd love to hear more about that. And I suppose piggybacking on that, the Title IX, how we balance making sure that there are teams of both flavors on getting equal financial representation.
So we do have reporting requirements around Title IX, and there's we can talk about. I do think maybe this would be a topic we could cover in a. I'm sorry, that we can cover at one of the finance committee meetings as we're looking at the budget for next year. Perhaps that might be a placeholder for that.
Perfect. I love that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have any, Shayna and Jason, you're okay now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I have one question for on this, and that was for at line item 777, air and gas technologies. I just noticed it was like quite a higher amount than normal. I was just curious why, because we did approve 17,483.68 for CNG compressor services on the October agenda, but I'm seeing like a charge of 114,742, and I just wondered, curious, because I was going back over the last couple of years and didn't see amounts that high.
I believe that was board approved. That was for the compressor rebuild at Lower Merion High School. The cylinders had fractured, and that was a long lead time. We actually get that from overseas. It made it in just after the potential port strike. So that was actually from a previous time. I would have to go back and find what it is, but that was a board approved purchase last year that did not come until this year.
I appreciate that, because I know that they pop up quite often, and I was trying to look back over my notes, but I couldn't find anything. So I appreciate you for reminding me of that. Thank you.
Can I ask one other question? Sorry.
Sure.
She should have moved this along before. Line item 772, it's actually on there too. Sam Adambaum, tax collection. What is that for? Because I've seen that come up a period of times.
Isn't that the fire stuff?
That's what it is, Jason. The agreement the township and the school district has, we reimburse Mr. Adambaum 50% each his tax collection expenses.
Oh, yeah.
So he's a public employee though, isn't he?
He's he's elected tax collector.
Right. So he's paid though. So is this is part of his salary for that, or this is above and
it's part of the compensation pay. He gets paid $16,000 in salary to do the collection. And then in addition, us and the township, part of the agreement is 50%. That was approved by the board years ago, even prior to Mr. Adambaum. That's always been the agreement for the Lower Merion tax collector.
Got it. And what he does is he sends out and he's responsible for maintaining the tax collection of the taxes for the school district.
Correct. And the township and the county too, we do.
You're right. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
I've got one more. Sorry. Well, we have, sorry. I saw we have all this on here, and line 1488 is for bus sales. I was just curious how many buses the $28,000 gets us.
Yeah.
Sorry, what line item is it?
Sorry, could you please try to mute yourself if you're not speaking? Thank you.
Decides that my friends might call your mom and come up. Your mom already knew.
Denise or Amy, could you mute the person? Thank you.
Sorry, I had to find which mic it was.
Sorry. Okay, so the line item was 1488, and I was just curious how much that 628,000 and change, how many buses that gets us?
I believe that was for 4 buses.
For 4 buses. And we still have more on order, correct?
We have a 230 passenger buses on order right now.
26.
Those are the smaller ones?
Cap reserve.
And how are you finding them this? I know we've had issues with having our orders filled on buses. Are you actually getting them filled in a way that's you're pleased with, or is it still behind?
It's still behind. This was delayed because these are, I think they are Chevy chassis for these buses, and the factory had a fire. So there was a delay that was not really as much related to supply chain as to the ability of Chevy to deliver chassis to the Thomas bus to build these buses. But it's getting better bus availability. Like I think if you order a bus today, it may be built in April of next year, which is like
That's
it's
not so
always
bad.
used
That's like
to be.
6 months lead time. That's pretty good considering what we've dealt with in the recent years, right?
Yes, that's when they go in production, but sometimes what happens in the production, they run out of certain parts and they put it
Mhm.
aside. So it's production. That's where they tell you it's scheduled to go in production. When it's going to be ready, they don't give you that information.
And the last board approval was for the purchase of 10 buses, right?
Last board approval was for 8 buses. We split it was 230 passenger was the last one. But before that, the bus that you're seeing, that bus was delayed. Those 4 buses were delayed by at least a year. They were
Okay, yeah,
supposed to
this
come
is from a
back.
long time ago that
Yeah.
we're just
And that was
finalizing.
8 buses. And we split a purchase between 2 vendors to anticipating that some may not, there may be issues. And one vendor delivered on time, another one delivered a year later. So that's something we have to take in account next time.
So we do have 4 of the 8 that we ordered, right?
We have all 8.
Great.
The amount you're seeing, those are the 4 remaining 4 buses that were delivered this summer.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Are there any hands raised from the community to ask a question about the list of bills?
I don't see, I don't see any, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Are we good to move these forward?
I am.
I am, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Let's go to the next agenda item, which is the purchasing report.
We have one item on the purchasing report this month. It's a roof project at Penguin Elementary. It is recommended the pricing from Weatherproofing Technologies for a major roof replacement at Penguin Elementary School under KPN contract KPN-A-202012-04 be approved in the amount of $798,728.65.
Thank you. Now, if I remember, this is replacing a 2002 roof, correct?
Correct. The cafeteria wing was not done back in 2019. It had a newer roof compared to the original building, the 49 wing. We are now catching up on this portion.
Okay. Jason, Shana, do you have any questions?
Just that, and my understanding is that this will complete the roof replacement for all of Penguin's, correct?
That is correct. Yep.
Perfect.
So would we be able to, I'm thinking about the board sitting here in 20 years, looking at this roof, would it be reasonable that that would be a full roof that they could then think about replacing at the next cycle? Would this last an extra like 5 years? Or would the other roof last long enough to do it together?
The previous Penguin roof in 2019 was actually a 25-year warranty. That was both a coating and a partial tear off. The current project that we're looking for approval for has a 30-year warranty, so actually the warranties will match up. The polymers have longer lifespan. At that point, based on technologies, and if we're not having any catastrophic issues with that roof, the entire roof would be a recoat, much lower cost. The current project is also a coating process, so we're not putting insulation in the landfill. Obviously, it's a lot less than some of the tear-off ones like we've had the last 2 years and other projects we've got coming up with BC that are tear-offs. They're much more expensive. So, theoretically, a board 30 years from now, I'll be long gone. But they should be able to take whatever the current coating technology is and just do a new cap on the top of it, hopefully extending it for another 30 to 40 years, depending on what the technology is at that time.
That's great. I always try to think ahead for future boards and appreciate anytime I come across something where somebody did that for us. The other question I had was just so I could understand a little bit more. This didn't go out for bid, right? Because it's a contract, there's like a list of contractors that are available. Could you explain how that process works a little bit?
So KPN works through the Central Susquehanna Intermediate Unit. It is bid at that time for the products. And those bids meet the state requirement for bidding as a blanket bid. Everything has been adjudicated at Harrisburg that is acceptable. In addition to that, the actual installation is considered an additional service, which is allowed within the KPN process. And our provider, Tremco Weatherproofing Technologies, actually will subcontract with a multiple roofing contractors. We had 5 look at Penn Win. We basically just rebid something that we'll bring next month to the board for BC. There were also 5 subcontractors there. So in addition to the fact that the award from the KPN contract is a bidding process that serves all the way up through federal approval levels, the labor part is also bid by Tremco and Weatherproofing Technology. So we are getting a good value as well as a good price.
Great. I really appreciate that because I know legally we're required to go. I apologize. Legally, we're required to go with the lowest bid, but this lets us shop around to have what we believe to be a trustworthy contractor to bid through but still let us be in compliance with those state regulations. So
correct. And they've been a good partner for me personally for the last 19 years.
I'm sorry?
They've been a good partner for me personally for the last 19 years.
Fantastic. Contractors can kind of go either way. And so if you have somebody that's stuck by you for as long as for a long time, that's really great and trustworthy. So I'm good to put this forward.
Okay, great.
And
Jason?
the terminology, Ms. Kalish, we sometimes refer to it as a quote unquote state contract. It's more precisely described as an approved purchasing consortium because it's going through all that vetting that Mr. Pitts described.
Yeah, I realized we had talked about CoStar so often that I hadn't quite realized that there were multiple ways to go about that. And I appreciate, because I knew it was legal because we wouldn't have been doing it if it wasn't, but I appreciate the explanation of what the legal mechanism to still be in compliance with that lowest bid process illuminated for me. So thank you.
I have no problem moving this forward. The one thing that I would just ask is Vic, I know that we're building out our capital improvement plan, capital projects plan. If we could just kind of note this, I know it's 20 years from now or 25 years or 30 years, if maybe we could start putting those types of things on the sheet, on our plan 20, 30 years out, so that at least similar to what Jana said, we have that information. Hopefully, Vic, you'll still be working here in 30 years, but I'm sure you're probably going to be retired by then. But if we could just putting that on there and start building that out so that we have the expectation that in 30 years or 25 years, we'll have to revisit that.
Great idea. Everything we can have done sort of automatically as part of the process that'll make everything easier for future notes. I think that's a great idea, Jason.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I'm okay to move this forward, but let's first check if are there any persons with their hands raised to ask a question?
No.
Okay, so then we will move this forward and go to onto the district contracts next. Okay, so
hi everyone. We have 2 contracts on there. One is World Book, which is the modern day encyclopedia. It replaces the print version that we may have had in our homes when we were younger. And There's access on ClassLink for all students to access them, but that are age appropriate by level. And it's a resource that comes from our librarians. And it's an annual. The second contract on there is from Flashlight 360, and that is supports our ELD. We've been working with the MCIU, and it's a recommended resource. It's a one-year pilot at this point. It's a formative assessment tool and working with our ELs to grow specifically in the area of speaking and writing. We're responsible to monitor their growth before they take the access test, which they take annually. And this monitors that. It also comes with professional development, so our teachers are able to use it well. And this, again, was a recommendation from the MCIU in our work with our ELD program.
Okay, thanks. Any questions, Jana or Jason?
I'm good with the Flashlight program. That sounds great. I was just wondering with World Book, is that a resource that the students can access when they're not in school? Is that
That is correct. Yes.
And they have to be to access these programs that we as a district pay for, they have to be on one of our school provided machines, or could my kid come home and use my laptop and log into a school resource with their school credentials?
That's a good question. I don't know if ClassLink is on external devices. That your child should be able to use it on their device at home, the district device. I don't know that. I can get back to you on that.
It was more of a curiosity than anything else. It wasn't a make or break for my approval.
I can't speak to this product specifically, but it does vary by product.
Okay.
Some products, the students don't actually have accounts, but they have to be coming from actually our network.
I see.
And then other products have individual accounts. So it does vary depending upon the vendor.
And how it's licensed.
Well, it's I think it's more like just complexity and ease of use and access. So we've had products where if the student isn't actually coming from our network, they have to be in our network for the product to work. And then there's some products where the students have individual accounts and they can log in from at home. So it does vary by product vendor. Again, I can't speak specifically to World Book, but it depends answer.
Okay. And thank you for that. You don't look very retired being here in our meeting.
No, I'm
We appreciate you staying on.
Thank you very much. Any opportunity I get the chance to speak at one of these meetings, I'm going to take it, right? So, but thank you.
Jason, any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. I'm just one question about Flashlight. When the amount, is that an MCIU negotiated rate for that? So we're taking advantage of the fact that they have technology that you can license through them?
I think they're just a recommendation. I think we work independently with the company to develop the contract between us and them.
Okay.
Mel, you could mention that as your IU liaison role to see if there was any way that they wanted to go in with one of these group contracts. And
yeah, there's a lot of different ones that we have that they also do, but I'm not sure what the advantages, disadvantages are of going through them versus going directly.
Okay.
But that is something be interesting to find out further about moving forward. Let's, if there's no questions from the board anymore, is there anybody from the community who has their hand raised?
No hands.
Okay, are we good to move these forward?
yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you both. And let's go on to the next one, bus patrol agreement.
Thank you, Ms. Schaffmeister. And just as a point of clarification, during list of bills, there was a question on the line item 777, the 114,742 to air and gas. That ties to purchase order 2500028084. And that was approved on the purchasing report for June 2024. So it did go through a purchasing report.
Thank you, Jim. That was me who asked the question, and I appreciated that. Thanks.
Um,
Mhm.
So specific to bus patrol. And Pennsylvania's school bus sidearm signal enforcement program allows school districts to partner with private vendors approved by PennDOT and local law enforcement to promote student safety by implementing an automated system that detects and identifies any vehicle that passes a school bus when its red lights are flashing, when its red flashing lights and side stop arm are activated. In other words, when the bus is picking up or dropping off a student on a public road. This vendor will provide specific information to the local police department for each incident. This includes a copy of a recorded image of the incident, the vehicle license plate, information, date, time, and place. The local police department will review this information and determine if a violation should be issued. This is a summary of the program, subject to any questions.
Okay, thank you for that. Shayna or Jason, any questions?
I do. So I read our legal update on this, and so there are a couple things I wanted to mention. But first, I wanted to ask, is a ticket issued if a bus is stopped, but the light is not, the arm is not out and the light is not on?
It can only be issued if the red flashers are active and the stop arm is engaged. That's what triggers the system.
Good. I can't tell you how long I sat behind a bus the other day that was stopped in my neighborhood because I didn't want to go around it, but it didn't have its arm out. So the other thing I wanted to mention for the benefit of the public is that the purpose of this is not to create profit for the district. The district does profit share once we pay back the fees for this program, but it's not like we're going out and trying to stop. We're not doing anything proactive to rake in more money. It's just an enforcement mechanism for a law that is already there. And also that per the contract, the district does not owe money to the provider if we do not collect sufficient ticket money to pay for what is billed. So if only 5 people get tickets and the bill is equivalent to what we would make from 10 people getting tickets, then we only pay up to what it would be. We wouldn't have to pay extra money to support this program.
I would just support that. The primary objective of this program is not to raise money, but to ensure the safety of students.
And just the way that Shane was saying it, so there are no expenses for the school district. The school district is not expending any type of money for this project and for the installation of these cameras and the system. What will happen is that as part of the way that the company that implements or the cost associated with the implementation of the camera will ultimately be paid through violations. Is that correct?
Bus Patrol's technology, the installation, the maintenance, that's all funded at zero cost to the district or the taxpayers. This is a violation funded system.
Perfect.
Okay. Now,
can I just ask, sorry, how long is the contract period? Like if we decide in a year that this is not something that we as a district are happy with or our constituents are happy with, that is there like, how do we review our continued partnership on this program?
So it is a 5-year agreement, and I can ask our legal counsel just to revisit and confirm, and just flip into the pages what the cancellation terms and conditions are.
That would be great. And if he could just go and mention that if and when if we put this forward, when it gets put to the full business meeting, when it comes up there.
Okay.
And just for the public's benefit or the community's benefit, our legal counsel has already reviewed this and made sure that that there are no legal implications or legal issues with this agreement, correct?
Our legal counsel has reviewed it and looked at it within the perspective of Act 19 of the Pennsylvania Legislature on October 23rd, 2023, which was approved on December 20. I'm sorry, it was approved on October 23rd, 2023.
And it's consistent with that.
That's what they reviewed it based on those terms and conditions.
Perfect.
Okay, I have one further question. I know this is something that we've often had community members come up over the time I've been on the board and asking about us implementing that for the safety of the student. I was doing a little research on, and I came across a document that is part of legislation of the DMV, and it said by law, the school entity or the system administrator of the school entity shall provide notice through a public accessible internet website that provides guidance and information related to the system, including but not limited to the number of school buses equipped with the system, the appeals process limited to the defenses, and the contact information. Are we adding information like that to our website?
Ms. Schaffmeister, that's a great question. You just quoted paragraph 3345.1.
All right.
Paragraph G, agreement, subparagraph 5, which I actually have highlighted here on my notes. Ms. Buckman and Mr. Volis and I had a very, very brief conversation about that. I've already visited a handful of other school districts' websites, saw some really good materials. I saw a YouTube video from one school district that will remain nameless. I already know that Lower Merion School and Community Relations will come up with a video far superior and far better quality and production. So yes, there will be information on the website, and that's pretty standard. And I'm noticing a lot of things that various school districts have been using as templates, because I'm starting to see the same graphics coming up on different school district websites. But again, the video that Lower Merion produces will be Academy Award, I am certain.
We should see if some of our fourth graders want to do a PBL and do their public service announcement as the video for this project. That'd be great.
Yeah, I also anticipate, because this also requires township approval, partnering with my counterpart, Lori Jennings, at the township and coordinating the publicity, because the impact of it obviously goes beyond just the families that get our school district emails and might be checking our school district website. So similarly to how we partnered with the township, sharing out information about the change in start times, we'll share out this information so that the community is aware of this additional safety measure for our students getting on and off buses.
In fact, one of the videos I saw, the local police department uniform officers were part of the video explaining it. And again, I thought the lighting was a little off, but Mrs. Buckman will have that all resolved.
Can I ask?
And when's the implementation? When are you planning to implement?
We're hoping, and our goal is to have it implemented before September of 2025.
Great.
And this can only charge money, right? This can't give you points on your license, or can it?
That's covered by a section of that statute, and it's basically just the fine. There's no points assigned, and it doesn't get reported to your insurance company.
Okay. I would think that it's similar to the way that a red camera works, that they can't prove who the driver is, so they can ticket and provide a fine, but they can't prove who the driver is, and therefore you can't do points on your license.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep. Just to get it specifically, it's not deemed a criminal conviction. It will not be made part of the operating record of the individual upon whom the violation being imposed, not used to determine merit rating for insurance purposes, does not authorize the imposition of surcharge points in the provision of the motor vehicle insurance coverage. Those were all nots.
Okay, thank you. Are Shana and Jason, you're good with your questions? Okay. Are there any community members with their hands raised?
No, right now.
Okay, so are we good to move this forward?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I believe that's our last agenda item. So I would say I'd open it to are there any community members who have questions that are not part of the agenda?
Prior to getting that, I would, if it's possible, we talked about this before, if there's a way to provide an update on the playgrounds and also the field in between Kinwood Elementary School and Bala Kinwood Middle School. I know that we were waiting on that information. If we could be provided with an update, I think that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. I was wasn't sure if Jim was going to jump back on the camera here. Right now, the administration is and has been for a couple of months now, working on the budget for next year. And part of that planning, as it is every year, the consideration of what capital projects need to move forward. And I know, it's a part of our intent to address playgrounds and build those into our planning for next year and beyond. So what I would say is we're still in the process of identifying where there's opportunity to move some of that work forward in the context of all of the other capital projects that we have. And again, within the context of the budget that we're preparing. So stay tuned for more updates on that as we move forward with that budget planning process. But it is in the works, and we know that that's something that the community is looking for updates on as well. Does that help?
Yeah, no, thank
anything
you
else?
very
Okay,
much. I
sure.
appreciate that. I would also note, I don't know if we have, but there were two in the presentation. There were two schools. There was Belmont Hills, where there was some caution tape around one of the school playground facility pieces, and then there was also in Kinwood, there was some caution tape around the outermost of that. And just so the community knows, the administration swiftly took steps to make sure we've ordered the pieces that are necessary to fix Belmont Hills, that hopefully by the end of the month, that playground should be able to be utilized completely. And then with Kinwood, some adjustments were made to relocate sheds and provide other fencing so that that facility could be used to the maximum as well. So I just a shout out to administration, really appreciate the efforts and so swiftly making sure that that we have workable and safe facilities for all of our children. So thank you very much.
Just a point of clarification, the parts at Belmont Hills were actually ordered on September 3rd. The issue there is they no longer manufacture replacement parts for that piece of equipment, so it had to go through a custom fabrication process. Those parts, we received them about a week ago. They came in last week. I've given the directive to have the actual repair work done. Now that we have the parts, have it done before the end of November.
Fantastic. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it. The community really appreciates it, and the students really appreciate it as well.
Thanks, Jason, and thank you everyone. That would appreciate concur with your thanks. So to go back to the original question, do we have any community members with hands raised for
no hands raised? Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, there's a comment from someone that doesn't know how to raise their hand on the. Okay, so there are some messages.
Okay.
If you can also add where you live in the district along with your comments. So this is from Risa Murphy. Hopefully she'll add where she's from. Thank you, Jason, for following up on the playground discussion. She's from Bryn Mawr. Would like to know if Welsh Valley was ever asked about its indoor recess policy or the playground area evaluated. I would like to know how many days they are inside due to hazardous conditions on the field.
So this was a question that was asked, I think, at the last meeting, that when we talked about the Ballackinwood, the field in between Ballackinwood Middle School and Kinwood Elementary School, I think that the same issue was raised that at Welsh Valley, due to flooding or due to rain, that there are issues with utilizing that field. So I think the question was asked whether or not that was the case. If we could take a look at, could the administration take a look and see whether or not that occurs in Welsh Valley, and is there a way to solve that so that children can spend time outside during that time?
So just as a point, again, another point of clarification, the issue at Welsh Valley is not hazardous conditions, it's weather. If it rained, it snowed, that precludes the ability for anyone to be able to use a grass field, unfortunately, if there's 4 inches of snow or there's recently been a heavy downpour. terms of how many times, people weren't able to use fields at Welsh Valley for either recess or any other purpose, the number of times that that's occurred during this school year is none. But that's a bad data point when you consider the fact we are right now in the middle of a drought. So what we did is we went back and looked at last year to see how many times fields had to be closed down. And again, these are closures due to weather conditions. And our records indicate there was 20 days that fields were closed during the previous school year. Out of 180-day school year, that's a 10% rate, roughly.
Now in those, do they stay inside, or because I know that some of the schools they call it, they go outside, but they still play, but they have to stick to the asphalt around the school. And
I'd have to defer to a principal or one of the people on the academic side. What they can do is, if the field is muddy or the field's covered in snow, if the asphalt is dry, then that's an opportunity for outdoor recreation. However, if it is currently raining at the time when recess falls, I don't believe that the school staff would put the students out in a downpour. But if it's rain the day before and the field's still saturated, we had some very saturated conditions in February, March of 2023. The asphalt would be a option, subject to, there's no active rainfall, lightning, and things of that nature.
okay, well, thank you very much for that explanation.
In those, sorry, just one quick question. In those instances, they usually can't use the gym, right? Because you have the physical education classes. So do the students would just remain in the classroom and just have some free time? Is that usually what ends up typically happening among the district?
It varies by school and what locations are available. And I don't know if Scott's able to, just from his building experience, to add to that, but it's, I think it varies based on the spaces that are available, and depends on the day and the circumstances. So Scott, I don't know if you want to jump in.
Agreed. It certainly is different by level, and then even by school, depending on what available large group space they have and what they work out. But sometimes it's in a classroom, particularly at the elementary level, but secondary, sometimes we'll have large group spaces.
Got it. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, I've been in the schools and I've seen the teachers taking the kids out for a little bit, even a march around the hallways, just to get some movement and some exercise if they're stuck inside due to weather. And okay, so are there any other further community comments? Okay, so if that is it, I think thank you everybody for attending today's meeting and for your input. And our next facilities and purchasing meeting will be on December 12th on Zoom at noon again. And I hope we're using this format to hopefully try to bring more the community members being able to participate, and we hope that is working for you. Please provide feedback if you have anything about this new format we're doing for facilities and purchasing. Okay, thank you everybody again, and we appreciate your support. Thanks.
Have a great day. Thank you, everyone.